Hey, good morning. Welcome to Thinking is Contagious. You can see behind me, we get the storm in here. Um, but wanted to speak a little bit today on a couple of topics, a lot of them having to do with the media, um, the brainwashing by the media. Nothing more evident than on MSNBC, a couple of examples this week. Stephanie Rule, operating under the guise of journalist, which she's anything but. Interviewing Representative Swalwell, who is anti-Trump, one of the lead guys to impeach, just anything against Trump guy. Interview regarding the hearing. They called it a hearing of Attorney General Barr, but it was an inquisition. And questioning, asking the representative what they hope to achieve in the questioning, other than, and this is her quote, besides questioning him and hopefully tripping him up. Okay, that's reporting. That's interjecting your personal opinion. That's telling your audience on MSNBC, you will listen to what we tell you, you will believe what we tell you, and you will take what we tell you as news. Not thinking, definitely not contagious on that station. Tiffany Cross on MSNBC this week. And again, I will use the descriptions in context, not for any other reason. African American woman, Tiffany Cross, interviewing an African American male who is a pro-Trump supporter. And she is just smirking at his comments, incredulous that a black man could support Donald Trump. Totally oblivious to the fact that the advancements of African Americans under Trump, as far as net worth, employment, home ownership, wage increases, wage advancements, record levels. Totally oblivious to those things occurring. Well, not oblivious, she's well aware of them, but she's, again, like MSNBC's mandate, saying, you will believe what we tell you. And her interview of this man is, she says, has Donald Trump, says, people like you, she calls him, first of all, people like you. What does that mean, people like you? Could I say that to a black man? No. But she says, people like you. Has Donald Trump promised you anything for your blind support? Saying, if you're supportive of Trump and you're black, it's blind support. You're ignorant if you support him, because why would that not be considered racist? Why would that not be considered agenda setting? That is MSNBC. And for all you listeners of MSNBC, they're talking down to you. They're basically saying you're not smart enough to think for yourself. It's a rag of a media outlet. Speaking of rags, Teen Vogue, Ariane Corsione, he is a reporter or a writer for Teen Vogue, and she wrote a story basically praising Karl Marx, telling young teens, female teens in this country, to look to Marx and his revolutionary ways. She calls him a scholar, okay, a leader of social movements, an anti-capitalist scholar, someone to look at, as opposed to looking at Donald Trump's 2016 election victory, significance in society today. Look at Marx. Well, let me remind you, Miss Corsione, probably you don't know, you don't realize it, but it's estimated more than 100 million people have been murdered under the guise of communism. Teen Vogue needs to be held accountable for this. This writer needs to be held accountable for this. You know, they criticize social media for hate speech and allowing it and interfering with elections. This is as criminal as it gets. This is like someone going out and asking you to look at the virtues of Adolf Hitler. Karl Marx is no better. And for Teen Vogue to be able to get away with something like this and there be no repercussions, that says everything about the state of this country and where it is being allowed to go and led by the liberal left. Teen Vogue, look it up. Speaking of ridiculousness, I need to go at this point to Nicole Hannah Jones. She is New York Times staff writer. She's very eloquent, writes very well. She's the author of the 1619 Project. And she has an article in the New York Times on June 30th, 2020. And in that article, it's basically a validation for reparations for African Americans. And in that article, she's quoted as, or she writes that her premises on the reparation piece, that wealth is not something people create solely by themselves, which is true. But here's where the problem is. It is accumulated across generations. You can't make that generalization. It is not all accumulated across generations. There's many examples. Vast majority of wealth is created by one generation, the first generation, that attacks and seeks opportunity, seizes it, and moves forward. Okay? So her premise is further belied by the fact that Forbes, their top 400 richest, 2018 top 400, 67% of the top 400 richest people in America, 67, 2/3, self-made. Self-made. I look at sections of demographics, and I'll go straight to the Cuban Americans, which is what I am. Most, 99% of them came from 1960 forward. No language, did not have the language, most of them. Some did. My dad was fluent, he studied here in the United States. But the majority did not have the language, absolutely did not have credentials, college credentials of the United States, acceptable in the United States. Many Cuban doctors came to this country and started cleaning buildings and doing whatever it took to support their families. Look at the progress of Cuban Americans in the United States, and specifically in Miami, Florida, over a 60-year period. Scores of millionaires, a billionaire, self-made, 100% self-made. Why? Because they had to make it. They had no crutches, they had no fallback position, they had to succeed. There were no built-in excuses. And Miss Hannah Jones, is full of built-in excuses. If you read that June 30th article, it is 90% talking about history, the past, the injustices. Guess what? If you continue living in the past, you're never going to get to the future. Her premise that wealth is generational, and in order to catch up to the white advantage, reparations are necessary. No, they're not necessary. And by the way, you can hand anybody a fish constantly, but until you teach them how to fish, It's not going to do you any good. There's no reparations in this world. First of all, they're not to be. I don't think that it's justified. We are talking the sins of over a century ago, and it is just an excuse, and it is just a crutch, and it is just an attempt to continue to have an issue of inequalities of wealth and income in order to create the cottage industry that racism has created in this country. There is no systemic racism in this country. There is no lack of opportunity in this country. Like I've said, people cross, what you see behind me, people cross the Florida Straits in inner tubes. They cross them in dinghies with their children in tow, shark-infested waters, to get to this country for opportunity, to flee the socialism that the left is trying to implement into this country today, and to have the ability to create a better life for their families. The only thing that works is capitalism. The only thing that works is the American Republic, Democratic Republic. And the only thing that we know does not work is socialism, communism. Ask the people in Venezuela. Ask the Cubans. Ask the people in Russia. Ask the people in Taiwan. Ask the people in China. They all seek what this country has. Capitalism, the ability to make it on your merit, the ability to work hard, seize the opportunity, and create wealth. Generational wealth does exist, but it is the minority of America's wealth. Our wealth today is being created in Silicon Valley. Our wealth today is being created on Wall Street. Our wealth today is being created in Middle America. Our wealth today is being created by the push, look forward, seize opportunity, achieve, take no prisoners, and accept no excuses. That's what creates wealth in this country. As long as you continue to point to all the injustices of 150 or 100 years ago, or even 60 years ago. Let's remember the Democratic Party 60 years ago was pro-segregation, pro-Jim Crow, against civil rights. That was the Democratic Party that today is saying that they're there to cure all the ills, and that if they're put into power in Washington, they will cure all the ills. And guess what, Joe Biden? You've been in power for 50 years, 45 years. You haven't done squat. Neither have your constituents done squat. What Trump has done in 4 years for minorities in this country is unprecedented. People, open your eyes. Think. Let it get into you. Let it make it contagious to thinking. Analyze, research, and realize that what has happened in this country in the last 4 years has flown in the face of politics and the politicians. And that's why they're so hell-bent on getting rid of this guy. Because he has attempted to float all boats with his rising tide. Get on board. Open your eyes and realize the land of opportunity is here. Don't let anyone tell you that they're going to give you a fish. Go catch your own fish. The ocean is full of them. Thank you. Have a good day.